I'm Tim Smith with the Adams County Historical Society, and welcome to a very snowy Monument Monday. I think we're in for a storm and the snow is just starting. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Eternal Light Peace Memorial, dedicated on July 3rd, 1938, at the 75th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg. The concept of a peace memorial somewhere on the Gettysburg Battlefield honoring a nation united or reunited is something that had been talked about for many years prior to the actual establishment of this monument. Perhaps it started during a reunion in 1887 between members of Pickett's division and the Philadelphia Brigade that was held at the Angle. And just prior to the 1913 reunion, this concept was really resurrected, and there was a possibility that this was going to occur. And at that time, the original proposal for it was to be at the Angle. But honestly, I think it was just a little bit too early for such a monument. There were plenty of veterans that were still alive, and not everyone was so keen on a monument celebrating, a nation united. At the 75th anniversary of the battle, as it approached, the plans that were long talked about for such a monument were resurrected. And it's interesting that the design agreed to was published in a souvenir booklet here that we'll show, published just prior to the reunion. And originally, this was going to be placed on the summit of Big Round Top, replacing the metal tower that had been built in 1895. On the peak of the mountain known as Big Round Top can be seen a steel observatory tower 70 feet high. From this vantage point, millions of visitors to the Gettysburg Battlefield view the surrounding terrain over which the forces in blue and gray fought 3/4 of a century ago. The Eternal Light Peace Memorial, a suggested study of which is shown on the opposite page, may be erected on the spot where the observatory now stands. 70 feet up, the Eternal Light Peace Memorial will be an observation platform, while 30 feet above that and from the top, the memorial will burn an eternal flame, a glow, a symbol of peace, unity, and harmony among these United States, a living, eternal tribute to all of those who in any way participated in that titanic 4-year struggle, 1861 to 1865. The eternal flame will burn forever. Its light shall never be dimmed by rain or sleet or snow or hail or wind. It shall stand as a living, lasting tribute from all the people of these United States to all those who shared in the trials, the sorrows, the glories, and the heartaches of the war between the states. Well, that's pretty dramatic. But, the light goes out every time it snows and every time it rains and every time the wind blows. So that part didn't work out too well for them. But eventually, the location of the monument was changed from Big Round Top to the plain northwest of the town, where, of course, it was dedicated in 1938. And, but the concept of the eternal flame came along with the monument in its new location that was greatly altered from the image we just showed you. So a few interesting things about the monument. Of course, it was dedicated, we mentioned, during the 75th anniversary of the battle. And one of the features of that reunion was the assembly of veterans of the American Civil War. While preparing for the anniversary ceremonies in the 1930s, it was ascertained that there were 8,000 veterans of the American Civil War that were still collecting pensions from the federal government for their Civil War service. Invitations were sent out to these veterans. and about 2,000 veterans accepted, and about 1,800 veterans attended the ceremony. There's actually a booklet that was published with the names of the people who had attended the ceremony with their addresses. The booklet doesn't tell you what units they were connected with, but I spent a lot of time at the National Archives researching when I was younger, and one of my friends, a guy named Jim Klaus, was obsessed with this. And at the National Archives, he found boxes of invitations and forms that were sent out to the veterans who were initially invited to attend the ceremonies. And there was a flyer that they sent back, and on it were the names of the soldiers and the units that they were in during the Civil War. And very few of the people who attended the ceremony were actually veterans of the Battle of Gettysburg. You know, most of these guys were young kids at the very end of the war. But according to the booklet that was published, the reunion was held from June 29 to July 6, 1938, and in total, 1,845 veterans attended. 1,359 from the North and 486 from the South. The veterans, each with a personal attendant, were the guests of the state of Pennsylvania and the federal government. And perhaps it would surprise you to learn that California sent the most veterans to the 1938 reunion. And keep in mind, California had no Civil War regiments at the battle. So that's fascinating. Number 2, by the way, was Texas, that sent 130. When I first started guiding, there were actually a lot of people that lived around town that were alive during the 75th anniversary. A bunch of the Gettysburg licensed guides had been at the ceremony. A few of them had been Boy Scouts that actually helped the veterans get around while they were here. You probably know the average age of the veterans is about 94. And one of the guides, Jim Tate, was 20 years old at the time of the reunion. And he used to tell the story that he remembers vividly. The top of the monument is made out of Alabama limestone, and the bottom of it is made out of Maine granite. And the veterans, when they learned this, Confederate veterans would keep popping up and saying, "Look, we're still on top." And Union veterans would jump up behind him and say, "Yeah, but look who's still supporting you." And boy, did he get a big kick out of telling that story. And Jim Tate would often shake my hand and say that shake the hand of someone who shook the hand of veterans who were actually at the Battle of Gettysburg. And I thought that was kind of cool. Although, again, very few of the attendees were actually veterans of the battle. Another interesting aspect of the dedication is the estimates of the crowd size. Various estimates indicate that 250,000 people attended the ceremonies, with approximately another 100,000 people that were trapped in their cars on all the roads leading into Gettysburg because of the large traffic jam. They couldn't attend. And we have an excellent 3-plate panorama of the crowd taken from the Peace Light, and we'll show it here. I believe it's taken by Charles Tyson Tipton, the son of William Tipton. And also, we have a photograph taken by a young girl in town that has a scrapbook on the 1938 reunion from the rear of the crowd looking towards it. Also, in the description, we're going to link to a video that actually you can watch that talks about the 1938 reunion, and we have Gettysburg Daily Post, which you can click onto, and then there's a link, and you can listen to Franklin Delano Roosevelt's speech that was given at the dedication ceremony that day. And we here at the Adams County Historical Society have a large collection of photographs that were taken at the ceremony that are part of the John Rice collection. He was probably the most important Pennsylvania official that was involved in the ceremonies. One last thing, the Eternal Light Peace Memorial itself is sort of a gas flame that today is fed by a gas pipe by Columbia Gas that leads to it. Again, I mentioned that it's not really the eternal flame continuously, and that it goes out occasionally if it rains, and then there's an automatic starter and it lights back up. But in the wake of the oil embargo in 1973, the flame was extinguished. It was relit for a time during the bicentennial in 1976, but in 1978, a large electric lamp was attached to the memorial. And for about 10 years, this giant light bulb illuminated the sky on Oak Hill. It was particularly disturbing, I remember, at night. According to one account, it was a sodium vapor light, whatever that means. In 1988, after years of public outcry, the light bulb was taken off and the flame was rekindled. And in our description, we're going to put a link to a program that was given here that discusses the relighting and the ceremony at the Peace Light Memorial in 1938. Remember, if you like the content that we put on our YouTube channel, please like and whatever.
And subscribe.
Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't remember subscribe.